Hey, what's going on? Thank you for listening to this episode of the Billy Newman Photo Podcast. My name is Billy Newman. I'm here with Marina Hansen in the studio today. How you doing, Marina?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Thanks so much for doing another podcast with me. It's a Monday night. It's late in November. The weather's starting to turn a little bit. I'm watching my watch as like the barometer goes up and down now. I'm like seeing the pressure change. I don't know if you watched it on your watch a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's fun. I just had a storm alarm go off a little bit ago. The pressure's it's dropping, Marina.
It's been dropping pretty fast today.
The pressure's dropping. So we're going back to some bad weather, apparently. That's what that means. But we're working on some photo projects too, and probably going to talk about those a little bit on this podcast today. Some of them have been pretty fun. I've been kind of enjoying some of the different editing stuff that I've been doing, like not using Lightroom for everything or doing some of the raw processing outside of that and some other stuff. And I don't know, just kind of some different opportunities and stuff there. But otherwise, it's like kind of been like organizing and like recataloging some stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to sort out the hard drives and stuff. I'm trying to get ready for 2018 and some data management stuff that maybe we can talk about some other time, of like how to use hard drives, how many you need, how many backups you need, how to like re-archive stuff, and probably just talk about it, like the trouble, like, because we're not experts, but just the trouble that we have of trying to sort out the hard drives that we have and like where the data is. Do we have duplicates of it? Like I think you were talking about that today, of the duplicates that you have in files in the archive.
Yeah, I've been putting together, I'm also trying to get in shape for 2018 and all my photo work for that year. So I've been putting together an archive of all my stuff. And yeah, I'm at that point where I really just have to weed out all the duplicates that I have of so many things.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely there too, where there's so many different little parts of files that have been made from the original raw file that was taken, like the original photograph. There's so many derivatives of that have come out of it over time, especially if it was a photo that I liked, that I ranked highly, and that I'd already exported. There's already copies of that as a JPEG or some other like smaller web-sized thumbnail of it.
Yeah, I have a lot of different sizes.
Yeah, and that's the one that I'm trying to get through right now. I'm going to try and go through this catalog, and I'm going to try and sort it out so that I pull like the top few thousand photos of the last decade that are the raw files that I really want to be able to work on or get access to or make new versions of or prints of or something, whatever that might be, but just to have access to kind of quickly, or, like, oh yeah, these are all the memories that I'm really after. I want those best versions of the files available to me. But a lot of the time I'm noticing that like it's really difficult to get to that given like the current archive structure that I have, where it's just all 100,000 photos that I have.
Yeah.
I can't really get to stuff in the way that I need to. So I'm going to try and like figure that out, where it's all the best stuff that I want to have with me right now. Everything gets archived to the cloud or to some cold storage thing, or, to some old hard drive that gets shut off or something, but some place where we get like everything stored there. And then really just like the last like year or 18 months or so, and like the next 6 months or so is what I want to be able to like keep on the hard drive that I'm working on. But we should talk about more like hard drive data stuff as the year comes in a little bit closer.
Yeah, I know we're planning on, or we're kind of in the process of changing around how our hard drives are set up for all our photo stuff.
Yeah, we're trying to get, I think, a little bit bigger stuff, because like right now I have the 4 terabyte hard drive here. That's the one that plugs in, and that one's been great for like doing some storage stuff. But now, like, like the data rates, the cost comes down so much that you're able to get a really large size, large capacity hard drive for not much money. And I think the cost of that is a lot better than some of the cloud storage stuff, and just some of the efforts of trying to put something in the cloud and then trying to pay to keep it there year after year after year. I'm really looking for a lot of these things that aren't really super important or super high priority to be able to put in some kind of cold storage thing like this, like what we're talking about, where we have a backup of it on a hard drive that's kind of put aside, that we don't have to worry about too much. But kind of like what we noticed, and I think like what one of those burned out cables that's in the trash right now is a signal of, is that hard drives go bad sometimes. Like that hard drive that we had, that portable one where it burned out at the USB port.
Right. It was terrible.
Yeah.
It's broken now.
Yeah.
Good thing there's nothing on it.
Yeah. So that, and
nothing that we needed.
Yeah, at least nothing
that's not backed up
there was.
else.
Yeah, that's the thing. Nothing that there was a back. So if it would be terrible if one of these hard drives went, where it was the sole house of all of the data that we have, especially like all of like the decade of photographs that we made and stuff. So I'm really trying to be conscious of trying to keep those in multiple places at the same time. So we've done an effort to put those up on the on like a cloud storage service, which has been okay. But I think it's like, oh, it's not the best version of those files. If I understand right, it's like a JPEG version. There's a few limitations around it, if I understood right, but it's okay. I don't know. We'll try and put a bunch of stuff up on the Prime Photo service, like that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask which services you're using right now,
Yeah,
or which cloud
the
services.
Amazon Prime cloud services is what I'm trying to use for the photo storage, and they have like unlimited photo uploads for a lot of stuff, and we put up a lot of stuff on that. But you kind of you have to make it current. So there's all this stuff from 2016 and 2017 that wasn't really part of that, and so I need to upload all of that content up into the cloud.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you just have to keep adding to it.
Yeah, I have to keep some of that stuff synced, and I think even still, there's a lot of gaps within like 2015 and 14, and that's all just stuff that we can file ourselves, but stuff that didn't make it up originally. And so now that I have like this like new catalog, like so before I get ahead of myself, what I did this weekend is I took the hard drives. I had this 1 terabyte hard drive that I use as like my portable drive. That's like my storage and stuff, like the tank that I have with my laptop when I'm in my bag out on the road. And that has all my photos on it. And it's really just had a copy of like the whole photo archive for a long time. But what I've been wanting to do is update that for 2017, take every photograph I have, every JPEG, DNG file, any RAW file or photo file that I have on my computer, on any of my hard drives. I want to try and condense that down into one set of files that are organized in some way. And so I wanted to use Lightroom to do that, since Lightroom in its backend, when it brings in files, it'll bring in files from one hard drive and then write them into a new file architecture on another hard drive. And so I tried to take everything and I backed it up into the 4 terabyte hard drive, and then I brought everything back over and I filtered it through Lightroom so that I could get everything put into a new file architecture that matched by like month and date and year of the file date. And most of the metadata is correct, but like, Marina, like a lot of the metadata for whatever weird camera or whatever set of film that we had that was scanned by some computer that never had its clock set and still says 2002.
Mm-hmm.
There's all sorts of stuff that has the wrong metadata date, where it shows up like when my D3's battery died and it said it was 2007 in February again, because that was the first date that computer knew in that camera. And it just reverted to that date again.
That's the worst.
It was silly.
Yeah.
So it's misdated, but it's really fine for most cases. So I was able to bring all those photos back over, put a new collection together. It was about 500 gigabytes or so. And then I was able to transfer that back over to the larger drive. And then the plan is to wipe the Go drive, the one that I have with me all the time, and then bring back over, like I was talking about at the beginning, like the top few thousand photos, and then everything that I'm kind of currently working on for this year and last year or so. There goes our heaters.
Banging in the background.
Bang, bang, bang. Sounds like hammers on a pipe. It really does every time.
That is exactly what it sounds like.
I never get used to it. Like when it comes into fall and those start popping. It's pretty funny. All through the winter, all through spring. Still, it gets like in the 70s, late May. Ugh. But yeah, so we're trying to do like this collection of archiving all these photos and trying to organize it and put it together. And it's been a fine process so far, but like trying to get your hard drive straightened out, especially when you're a little short on space, because you sort of wait until you start to organize your hard drive until you're running low on space. And you're like, oh man, I got to do something. I got to move these files around so I can kind of get by still. And that's what I was running into problems with too, where it was like every hard drive was starting to get full and I go, oh man, I got to get like a new hard drive. And like we were just talking about, hard drives go bad, especially these portable ones, especially these spinning disk drives. Like the MacBook I have now, that's an SSD. Those solid state systems are going to last a lot longer than the spinning disk mechanisms, because that magnetic spinning disk plate is going to mechanically fail after some number of miles of revolutions that it makes, that the motor does. But the solid state system has the advantage because there's no moving parts and it's just electricity. And so it's really conceivable that there's really no finite point that drive will fail. Like most thumb drives or something. Optical media, it's kind of like thought that that's going to burn out after 20 or 30 years. You're not really even going to be able to use the disk as it's stored unless it's stored in like a good condition. But thumb drives and other like solid state media, if the ROM doesn't lose whatever data was on it, it's likely that it'd still be readable if it wasn't damaged. So it's kind of interesting, like how different
Yeah,
types of
what's
media work.
lasting and what's not.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. But other photo projects, there's some stuff going up on Instagram that's been cool. I've been trying to keep up with my Instagram stories and stuff, and trying to put up some stuff that's sort of like a vlog. Not really, but just like some stuff about the cameras that I'm working with, or the lenses and stuff that I'm working with, and I don't know, just sort of some day and day stuff that's up on Instagram at Billy Newman. I'm trying to have a good time with it, and I'm trying to like message a bunch of people. I'm trying to do a bunch more marketing stuff like that. I've also been trying to do some more promotion work, like trying to work in adding like $3 or $4 behind a post to get a CPM of about 500 to 1,000 people or so, kind of based on whatever market it is, which has been cool.
Yeah, how's it been working?
It's been going pretty well, and I like it. I like it for the most part. I need to kind of go to school a little bit for this. I think I need to try and spend some time on Amazon, or on YouTube, kind of going through some video stuff about how to use some of this back end stuff and how to like get more out of it. And sort of the same thing with Amazon too. Like we were talking about the Prime photo services, and there's a lot of like the AWS back end stuff that I want to try and figure out, like how to do storage of files, like we were talking about, like the photos through Prime Photos, but also like for like bigger video files or bigger projects and stuff. There's lots of stuff on Amazon that you can do to store large files when you upload it, and you just kind of pay for bandwidth or pay for storage to whatever amount you use. But I've been kind of looking at both little systems. But some of the stuff is going up on Instagram. It's a photograph of the Alvord Desert. It was one that I was working on in Luminar, and that was from a raw file that I had from the A7R when we were out in the desert, out in the Alvord back in September. And there's like a couple of photos from there that I've been trying to work on a bit more, but through this software called Luminar that I was telling you about. It's like Luminar 2018. It's this update to some software that's been around for a long time. And it's kind of, well, I don't know, a couple of years. It's a newer software, and it's definitely got like that modern Mac OS interface system, kind of like how I was showing you some of the stuff in the new Final Cut, how there's some of those button interfaces.
Yeah, it looked really similar in the layout.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's similar in it, and just sort of the way that it operates and hides certain features. But it was kind of interesting. It's a lot like the Lightroom system. Like in Lightroom right now, how we have the develop module. It's really a lot of the features that we'd see in the develop module, but really not the type of categorization system that we'd have in the library module of Lightroom. And that's, I think, some of the stuff that Luminar is really lacking in right now. Where Luminar really does succeed is like a lot of the options in photo editing, and like kind of specific or sort of unique editing filters that you can add to the develop module on the side for some of the adjustments that you can make, like just some of the ways you can add luminance or brightness or soft glow or just different pieces like that. The software is kind of able to provide a lot of different ways to add adjustments and stuff to the photographs. And there's been some really interesting stuff that I've been trying to make, or like kind of coming up with different edits of some of the old photographs that we had just kind of gone through in Lightroom.
That's cool. You've been checking it out. I haven't spent any time in it yet. You're doing is it like a 14-day trial?
Yeah, I picked up from the website you can go and get a 14-day trial for the software. I think in the Mac App Store you don't really see an option for that, but I think you see just for sale. I think it's like $59.99 or $69.99. There's probably a sale going on for Cyber Monday or Black Friday. But it's been interesting software, and it's been cool to use. I've been curious to see what other things besides Lightroom are going to pop up. And so we see like Affinity Photo, we see Luminar, we see Pixelmator. There's Capture One, and there's a few other kind of pro options out there. A lot of them, though, outside of Capture One, a lot of them are lacking like the content management or the digital asset management side of it.
Oh, right. I can't remember if it was Luminar or a different one that you had shown me, but yeah, it seemed more like Photoshop almost, where you take the file in and you process the file, but it doesn't store your set of photos that you're working on.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't seem like it was for batch editing, or like taking a thing. Kind of like how there's a little bit of batch editing stuff, but it still seems clumsy in comparison to the tool set and workflow that you have in Lightroom. So really, it seems like you would still need Lightroom in some capacity to sort of organize some of your photographs in a way, at least right now.
Lightroom is really great for that.
Yeah.
Of what there is right now.
For the version that I have right now, I'm still way, way, way happy with the workflow that I have for the time being. So I have no need to like upgrade to the Creative Cloud version. That's the current one that's causing problems.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to keep the old version of Lightroom, and then in some capacity, like update some of my raw processing stuff on the outside of that to Luminar, where I get to kind of take advantage of some of the more modern processing techniques that are available in something like Luminar or something like Pixelmator or something like Affinity, like some just the different preset packages, and mess around with some of the new creative stuff that's kind of new and modern for photography in 2018 as it's going to be. It's cool to be able to test that out, but it's also nice to really be able to keep Lightroom around in the background.
Yeah.
And just have that there to organize stuff. Like even just like what I was talking about of like this big project I had of kind of trusting it to transfer 600 gigabytes of photographs through the computer and then onto a second hard drive and then categorize those under a file name by day, date, and year. I just wouldn't really trust like software like Luminar to do that. It's not capable of anything like that. Like you were talking about, it can just take one graphic file in at a time, process it, and then save that out as a graphic file. But it's not even like that same kind of non-destructive system where you work on it for a while and then you just leave the program and it's saved. Those edits, those adjustments to the photograph are saved non-destructively to the file. It's still non-destructive editing, but you have to save it as like a project file. So like ultimately, instead of like just a single catalog where you would go through a lot of images, if you were working in Luminar more exclusively, you would have a folder of your photographs or photo projects, let's say, and you would have a photo, like a Photoshop file, but a Luminar file that was the image with the adjustments set aside to it. It's a really big file too. It's like with these like 45, 50 megabyte A7R photos, it's like a 70 megabyte file.
That's huge.
It's huge. Yeah. Yeah. So my poor little 100 gigabyte hard drive is choking. So it's, I don't know. It's okay. But the Luminar stuff, it's been cool to work with. I'm going to try and do some screen capture stuff with it. And with that, just kind of thinking about doing screen capture stuff, it's been making me think about screen capture stuff and trying to figure out how to do it. And I didn't really know how to do screen capture work before. And pretty quickly, I just figured out, like from people everywhere saying it, that you can just use QuickTime, the QuickTime player on the Mac to do that. And it works really well. Like I pulled up QuickTime and then you go like File, Start New Screen Capture. And then you click on the monitor that you want to start recording, and you can kind of set some commands around if it's going to show the mouse click or mouse capture at all. And so I was able to do that. I don't know. I was able to practice a couple of times and make some screen captures. And I want to try and transition that over to some of the stuff that we were talking about of like similar to this right now, like record audio like we're doing in the podcast, but then run a screen capture on the background while we're working in something like Luminar, while we're going through one of the photographs that we have from, some place that we were at. And then we can show some of the adjustments and some of the ways of working in Luminar and making adjustments and then saving a file out. And then we can put that up as content on YouTube or, YouTube. That's where I went. Facebook or something too. They take videos.
Yeah, that's really cool that you figured out that screen capture stuff. That's awesome. That's so easy.
Yeah, it will be easy for us.
For at least this kind of screen capture.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I can try and put some work into it and make some of the stuff, sort of basic, but kind of easy to put together. And if it's as easy as this, like of just doing the podcast and doing it in the studio and having the audio and stuff running, it should be a good way to put together some good image editing pieces for something like Luminar. I was scanning around on YouTube, and there's really a pretty limited amount of good introductory videos for some of this stuff. There's some that the company itself has put out, and those are pretty good. But some of the stuff on the outside of it, just the photography and the advice and the direction of editing and stuff around Luminar or around Affinity, some of the training tutorial videos I saw around it they're kind of goofy, and you don't really see like what's going on. Or, you just kind of end up with some kind of crazy image. And it's just sort of some kind of quick.
Oh, sure. Not how to do real editing, but just if you crank this tool, this is the part that it's
That's
affecting.
what it
Sort
seemed
of.
like they ended up showing. I understand the idea that like when you're screen capturing and trying to figure out how to make something artistic, it doesn't really go
Logic.
together so well. So you kind of have to do it like Martha Stewart a little bit and have the two ovens going at the same time. So as soon as you put the pie in the oven to bake, then you pull out the pie that's already cooked, right? Like so you have to have a
Hmm.
couple pieces already done in advance. But yeah, it was kind of funny watching some of this stuff. It just doesn't seem like it's really developed yet. So yeah, I want to try and put together some of the stuff around our cool photos, our outdoor photos. Try and
Yeah, I think that's cool to get into.
do some landscape tutorials or something. If I can figure out how to edit, it might be just good practice for me to learn how to edit some photographs. I don't really edit enough. I don't do enough retouching, to
Oh,
like really
sure.
practice my skill to like hone the craft of retouching. I don't know how it was for you, like doing a bunch of the wedding stuff. Like it's a lot of retouching to do, but just like
It's
the
a lot.
advancement of like getting better at retouching or,
I
like
feel
figuring out.
like my retouching skills are something that have definitely improved. I think it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
other kinds of editing that I want to get into, or just the more stylized way of putting, not in a gross way, but
Yeah.
just I don't know exactly what I'm really thinking about, but I'm trying to just get more refined in
Yeah.
how I'm putting my photos together. But retouching specifically, pretty good at.
I want to
Those
try.
wedding
Yeah.
photos are great
Yeah.
practice
Oh, yeah.
for
I'm sure.
retouching.
I'm sure you
Yeah.
get like a ton of practice in that. But I want to try more too, and that's why I'm messing around with Luminar. But really, like, there's so much I can do in Lightroom still. Or it's just kind of practicing, retouching, and kind of working toward doing a better job at putting the files together and making them nicer. Going back over some of the old ones, and I want to try and do a little bit more to like rough draft photos, or like, oh,
How
this
does
is
that
a
mean?
well, just like this is a rough draft of the edit, so I could go through in
Oh,
Lightroom
sure.
and
So you
I
do like your first set of editing, and then you go
yeah, then
back to it.
I look at it and then I should edit it, kind of redline it a little bit, see like, oh, this is good, this is bad. Or I see this grading, this light doesn't look natural. So some of that sort of stuff is the thing I should work on.
Yeah, I noticed that that helps me a lot to go to like kind of come back to things a few times before they're done.
I'd like to try and do that a little bit more. I should try and take it more seriously, like the editing part. Editing and publishing part, I want to try and jump on more. It's winter time now. I got to put in
It's a good time for studio hours,
more studio hours is what I
more
got to do.
editing time.
Way more editing time.
So for the Luminar stuff that you have gotten to do, how is its editing compared to Lightroom? Um, like for the parts of it that would be similar or comparable tools. Like, do you notice one seeming like it's better, or do you notice what like is Lightroom still just the best thing that there is,
Yeah, an old
or
version of
is
Lightroom is still the best that there is. Yeah, an old version of Lightroom, I think, is.
sounds right?
It's really what it feels like right now. I mean, apparently there's some stuff in 2018 that's supposed to handle more, like of
I'm
the
sure there'll be a
import.
bunch of stuff coming out.
Yeah, it's the digital asset management part that's not really built yet,
Sure,
and that's the
but
thing that's going to be built, I guess, in 2018, coming out by some of these software companies.
yeah.
And that's when we're going to be able to see like which one might be better. But really, as it stands right now, it still seems like Lightroom.
For how about for like the actual photo editing part though, or what you're able to do with
Yeah,
the editing of an image, not so much organization of
for the
photos
yeah,
or
that's a big
cataloging.
part of it. Um, and going through there, there's interesting stuff that you can do. Uh,
I know it's a new tool to learn, also, so there's probably an amount of just getting used to it.
there's that part too. When in 1992, 93, when Photoshop first came out, you see like
Oh my
you see
gosh!
the art from that, the photography art from then, and it was just like
Yes,
these insane rasterized images that didn't make any sense.
seen
And
some pretty freaky pictures.
yeah, it was just like all the colors were like transposed into like these weird, super hard, like greens and reds and yellows.
I remember lots of yellows.
It was just if you cranked everything to one side, and it was just like, oh,
Yeah,
wait,
just
we
really
got it.
harsh.
Look at that. But it was just because they didn't know what to do with it yet, so they did the most with it,
Sure, yeah.
and it was bad. And then like since then they like pulled back a lot, and so now like it looks like real life, or like they're building something digital to look real, You know, it's like the artistic part of it's back where you're just using the same thing to try and lay in the same type of artistic principles that you would anywhere else. So part of that is to say, in the same way as we're coming into these new tools and people are learning these new tools, like HDR was back in 2007, it's like too hard sometimes. So similarly with some of this stuff, it's a little bit too hard on the editing side. And I noticed that with Lightroom for years, like, you know, when Lightroom came out and with my own photos, when I edited them, there's just like, there's just too much, there's just a little too much pressure, like a little too much gain or something on the signal. Like it was just about to break up. That's what it felt like sometimes. So I don't know. That's just sort of like the immaturity of the photographer, myself in this case, and kind of how to understand how to use the tools. But as it goes, the final answer of it is that any of these tools can really result in the same outcome of great work. You know, like what you would know too. It's like it's just the artistic side of learning how to use some of these really basic tools to make more simple and refined adjustments to some spots that make the image a little bit more powerful. Like trying to do basic stuff like crop or color correction, or like a little bit of tone curve stuff, you know, like make it brighter, make it a little bit more contrasty. That's about all you can really do. I think there's different layers and there's different heavy amounts of presets and hue grading, like whatever that stuff is of the forest photos with no green. There's that, I guess, that you can add. But I really think that like a lot of it should be pretty slight adjustments that are there to try and like add to the photo in some way. And I think that those you can do in any of these softwares. You know, in any control panel of adjustments on the side, you can export to anything that like would work pretty well. But in the same way, it's just like a new flavor of a thing to do, or it's a new workflow that kind of breaks up some of the old crusty habits that I've had in the past.
Yeah.
Like that's how it is with Lightroom, trying to go from Lightroom to Luminar, or, you know, and just messing with it. Capture One, not a chance. It was way too complicated, way too kludgy of an interface system there. Maybe for a pro that was really into that system, they could do it. I'm not required to. I'm not tied down to it at all. So it just seemed like this would be a waste of time ultimately for me to like really put a ton of pressure into if it's really not a more productive tool for me to get something done.
Yeah.
You follow what I mean? Lana? Yeah. It's like, this just seems like hard and complicated.
Yeah. Not necessary.
Yeah.
To get into.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a little bit, I don't have a Capture One, or I don't have the Phase One medium format camera, you know.
Yeah.
If I got you know, some insane camera dropped off, I guess I'd try and mess with that software more, you know, cause it's like proprietary to it. But outside of that, you know, no, I don't need it. And I didn't buy the pro software either. So, I guess, you know, the decision was made for me. As it goes though, with using like Lightroom and Luminar, I don't know, the editing stuff, it works really well. I've been digging the Luminar stuff because it's a little bit of a way to break up some of the editing choices that I was making in Final Cut, or sorry, in Lightroom continually. And so changing that part up has been a good way to do stuff. Like I like the photograph that I put together of the Alvord Desert over here, from one of the raw files that we shot out in the Alvord with the A7R. And it was like, you know, during sunset, and I was able to kind of pull in some of the warmth. The original photo was kind of gray. You remember the day out there. The Alvord was a little bit gray. It was a little low on color and low on warmth and stuff. Right. I was able to pull a lot of that back into to the raw file, you know, to the image when I was editing it. And I just like the way that some of it came out. So
I really like how that one came out. The colors look really nice and natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks like it's well put together.
Yeah. As photo editing software goes, it did fine. It works nicely. It comes together, you know, pretty well. So I was happy with that. But yeah, some of the batch editing stuff, it's got a long way to go. Some of the resizing stuff, it did fine. Or, you know, like just setting up kind of the export file, the export system of what you can do to the file on the way out. That's a little bit reduced from some of the bigger options that you have in Lightroom.
Lightroom has a ton of option variations to get into for exporting.
Yeah. So like the workflow that I have at work, like outside of an artistic workflow where you're trying to take a choice image and then make adjustments to it to make it its best and then export that as like a piece of art. Outside of that kind of workflow, like what I do on the production side of taking a few hundred stock photos of equipment and trying to process that, like batch process it and batch export it, this sort of software would just be no good because you kind of can do batch processing, but it's real clumsy. It's nothing like what you would really expect if you're trying to do it efficiently or, properly. And that's kind of a tricky thing. So I don't know. We'll see like what they kind of develop over time, but like I would never want to switch over from Lightroom to something like this if I were trying to do batch processing and exporting of all the production work that I do. It would never work as that, like,
not.
yeah. Cause like to grab 30 photos and then export those and have the export resize all 30 of those to whatever long width of it and whatever file type into whatever directory of a folder. I don't have the option to do that in some of the Luminar stuff. I can like edit the photo, sort of like you were talking about, like edit the photo in Photoshop, make some adjustments, but not really any healing brush adjustments. You can kind of get by with healing brush, but like the healing brush stuff, it works way better in Photoshop. Like the content aware healing, way more effective than probably, like it's just Adobe. They've been doing it for 30 years trying to figure out how to do that technology. And they're way better than probably anybody at the algorithm that does the cloning tool stuff. I'm amazed at like some of the stuff they can do. So you can kind of get by in Luminar if you need to like clone something out, but it's still a little tough. It's like it's still a little patchy.
Yeah. I remember like the cloning out tool that Lightroom has, or that like really basic one. Like really just started being good not that long ago.
Exactly. Yeah. It was bad.
It was really bad. I remember it being frustrating.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
I always had to use Photoshop.
I always had to bring it into Photoshop. Yeah, one time just to do a little bit of work.
Touch-up piece. Yeah, just some little tiny things. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. My workflow is completely different now. I really just only use Lightroom.
Yeah,
I almost never... Like, I did a lot of basic, but like necessary like retouching and stuff for wedding photos.
Yeah.
And just like stuff on skin and stuff, or like things in the background, and really like it gets the textures of things and the colors, or like the shading just in the patch.
Yeah.
So well now. It's really impressive. Like you can do so much with retouching just in Lightroom now. I remember I had a friend who was a makeup artist, and I used to help him with photo shoots for his projects. And I would do a lot of retouching for those shots afterwards. And I always had to take them into Photoshop because Lightroom couldn't do like just little basic skin retouching things.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that too.
Not in a good way.
I know. I could never do it. And yeah, it's gotten much, much better. Like the healing brush tool has gotten much better. So I'm sure it's probably better even still in like the more advanced versions than the few years old version of Lightroom that we're running right now. And I hear that there's other tools. Like I hear Pixelmator is really quite good for the healing system like that. And I hear, what was the other one? I don't know. I think it might be Pixelmator, but I hear or maybe it's Affinity, but one of those softwares is the one to use for like your 3D images. Like if you're getting like 3D photos or something, you have one of those, not 3D, the 360 degree cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're recording like a spherical image.
Yeah, and you like stitch it.
Yeah, I guess you can stitch it in this program, and then you can do some of the healing brush stuff around like the base of it where the camera is.
Oh.
Like, like a 360, like say you were to look around, you can look up, like, but straight up, there's going to be like a dot. It's going to be like a gray dot where there's no data. And then like straight down, there's going to be the same thing where some of the data's come together. And so I guess like this is the software that works even better than Photoshop right now to work on these 360 image environments where you can go through and like pull the image around and then use the healing brush on one of those spots and then have it close that out. And then you can render that out as a 360 like file to what I don't even know what file type that is. And then and then edit it from, or work on it and use it from there. But that's how they're producing some of these files.
Interesting. That's cool.
I want to try and learn a little bit about that, like, and also like and how that 360 stuff relates to the stock photography market. I was looking at that a little bit, like when you look at iStock photo or Storyblocks, which takes like video and audio and photo. And then there's like Pond5. There's a handful of other like stock photo systems out there, but a lot of the stock photography sites, they're talking about a need for these 360 environments for like people that are doing VR development, that sort of thing. So they need these these stock files to build their VR environments with like good produced or well produced 360 images. I was trying to figure out like,
that's so interesting.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like, I wonder how like we could do that sort of on the side of doing other landscape stuff, but go out to places and then get like 360 footage and then edit or like do just like some of the simple production stuff of it and then put it up on some of these stock sites where it's like in need to get this type of 360 content.
Yeah.
Where there's already so much of a flood of landscape work in stock as it goes.
Huge amount.
Yeah. So we like that.
Very
but
much.
I'm trying to think of like content and media work that's sort of around, like maybe we're not going to get paid for landscape photos for a little bit. So, but maybe we can make stock 360 photos
yeah,
and make a little bit of money because
cool.
there's not enough of those right now. And then use that as an excuse to go on trips out to Eastern Oregon and make photos of Fort Rock or, somewhere cool in Lake County. But we're making some 360 photos or some 360 content or something like that. That goes up on one of these stock sites. But it's just kind of a fun side idea. Something we can try in the springtime, maybe.
That's interesting. I didn't know that was a part of the stock photography need now.
It seems like it's coming into a lot of stuff around VR.
Yeah, VR is really big.
Yeah, a lot of stuff around VR and a lot of drone footage is
I'm
in
super
demand.
into the drone stuff. I want a drone really badly this next year.
We should try and get an inexpensive drone. We should try and take it to some spots to get some good basic stock footage of some good stuff outside. Yeah, like the places that we go, all that stuff would be great to get 360 and like aerial drone stuff. But like that's what I was thinking. Is like, man, I bet we could run a business really if we just try to book ourselves to do like even just stock trips to do like footage. 360 and aerial drone footage that goes up onto stock sites as we like populated it in like a pretty significant effort to produce. But like one of the trips we made or something like that.
Yeah.
If we did that 2 or 3 days a week wherever we were going, and like we took off to somewhere and worked out of a hotel for a couple of days and made some aerial shots and some 360 shots sort of a thing, and then edited them and put them up from whatever area. We'd probably be like some of the first people to make 360 and aerial content of a lot of these outdoor places.
That'd be so cool. I'm really into that.
Yeah.
I think the 360 stuff is a cool idea.
Yeah.
And I've been on board for the drone stuff.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, we need a couple grand.
Awesome.
we need some bucks.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I really want to try and do that. Yeah, I was thinking like, wow, yeah, we'd probably make some of the first, especially under the scope of being like cinematography. Mm-hmm. Like there's probably a handful of things that are going up, but it's probably not as much like shot or like a photography level work. And I think that we could probably excel in that pretty quickly if we were jumping in there. But first, we should get our toes wet, and this winter we should try and put up like a portfolio of at least 100 of our images and try and go through and like learn about it, like put up the photos into a stock library, try and tag them and title them and get them like in there, get our account going, get it figured out. You know what I mean?
Get familiar with how their system works.
Yeah. And then see like, oh yeah, okay, this is the sort of stuff that we're seeing in 360 video right now. But I know it's probably going to be maybe not a fad. I think it's really going to be like something content related to virtual reality. Virtual reality is going to be really necessary. And that could be static photos like it's been. It could be like 360 video. It could be a lot of different things, but it's kind of interesting that it's just like a new thing that's sort of opening up. So we should try it. It'd be fun. There's probably like a need for it somewhere on the West Coast. And I don't know. Maybe we can get paid for it someday.
That'd be cool.
We'll be so on the edge, Marina. That's what we got to do. We got to be on the cutting edge.
Cutting edge of VR.
Ooh.
Stock photography. I'm in. That sounds cool.
We can put it on our resume, Marina, that we're VR content developers.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it's it's going to be real, Marina.
It's all right.
The yokels around here, they don't know, but we know.
Oh my gosh, I know.
We know, Marina.
We gotta stay ahead.
We gotta stay ahead. We gotta do it. But I think that's probably everything I got going on for this episode of the podcast. What about you, Marina?
I think that wraps it up pretty well.
I think it'll be cool. Thanks a lot for doing a bit of a longer one in the studio again. I think we're going to try a handful more of these, but yeah, I appreciate you talking about some of the little deals we got going on. Don't miss it this week. There's going to be maybe, I don't know, three photos that hit Instagram. Something cool from the desert, probably. I'm betting it's probably something from the Oregon High Desert. What would you know?
Shock.
Whoa, it's crazy. But yeah, thanks a lot for listening to this episode of the Billy Newman Photo Podcast. Thank you so much, Marina, for joining me and doing some co-hosting today.
Thanks so much for having me on, Billy.
I appreciate it. So on behalf of Marina Hansen, my name is Billy Newman, and thanks a bunch for listening to this episode of the podcast.